Rob, we are enjoying the magic of the internet because we're talking across the Atlantic Ocean via Skype. And Skype tends to have hiccups, just like Shortcuts had today. Is that an appropriate segue?
You nailed it. I think that's perfect.
I think I did.
Would you say a hiccup is what this Shortcuts thing is?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we'll look back on it as a hiccup because, as we record this today, still, all shortcuts links that were created on or before, I guess, the 23rd of March are dead at the moment. They return an error if you click on one of them and try to install the shortcut on an iPhone or an iPad. You get an error, and it's a problem because, well, especially for us at Mac Stories, we have a shortcuts archive with 230 or so shortcuts that we have available, that used to be available for anybody to download and use. At the moment, all of those links and all of the related links and all the stories we've written about shortcuts are all dead. And as best we can tell, yesterday on the 23rd, the gallery, which is that directory section of the Shortcuts app that Apple curates, was down for some period of the day. Also yesterday, all the new betas came out for all of the platforms. We're getting very, very close to 14.5 of iOS and Mac OS and everything coming out very soon. Those all came out kind of midday. At some point yesterday, the gallery is down. I don't really use the gallery very much, so I hadn't noticed it. And then later in the day, people on Reddit started noticing that the iCloud links that you use to share shortcuts with other people weren't working. But it really didn't come to a head until this morning, early my time, when people on Twitter started talking about it. There was a lot of chatter. And I did some investigating myself, realized, yes, this is true. None of them work. This is a bad thing. And so we started, we started testing to see. We immediately had the concern, of course, that maybe Apple had shut down shortcut sharing. But the reality is that while existing shortcuts all died, you can still make new ones for either new shortcuts or even existing shortcuts on your phone or iPad that you regenerate a link for to share with someone. So, when I look at it, I think, well, if Apple were doing this intentionally, if they really didn't want you to be able to share shortcuts anymore, they wouldn't let you keep making them for new shortcuts and kill the old ones. They do just the opposite. They'd probably begrudgingly let the existing ones that have been published all over the world survive and shut them down going forward. But they didn't do that. And so my guess is that either that something related to the betas that came out yesterday, although I think that that's probably a coincidence because my understanding is this is impacting people whether or not they're on the beta. So maybe not that. But something about dealing with the gallery yesterday or wherever it was, somebody tripped over a cord somewhere in the back office and took the database offline, whatever it is. However that is set up, I don't have any idea how shortcuts links are stored and shared with people, but it's not working, and my guess is it's a bug, not an intentional thing. We actually did contact Apple to see if they had anything to say about it, and we haven't heard back. We haven't heard what the problem is. We haven't heard that there's no problem. We haven't heard that there's no comment. We just haven't heard. So hopefully we'll hear something soon, but in the meantime, we're just kind of sitting around waiting to see if the shortcuts come back.
Yeah, what sort of surprised me, like I said, I knew that, you guys at Mac Stories have a bunch of shortcuts and stuff like that, but what I hadn't realized was, how many websites there are dedicated just to shortcuts. Was it Routine Hub? Is that one? I think.
Yeah, Routine Hub is one of the biggest ones. There are whole communities around these, and that's essentially like a directory, and I guess you would consider it a combination directory and forum chat for people to talk about shortcuts. And so that's one of the biggest ones. And a lot of these places are the ones that have their own kind of systems where there are all kinds of crazy schemes for offloading and update. There are schemes to update shortcuts automatically. and some of these things are hosted at some of these sites. But in any event, yes, the Routine Hub's one of them. There's several of them, and they're varying degrees of popular, but they're all out there and they're all dedicated to this. And those, especially, I mean, Mac Stories, yeah, it's not great that we don't have these links usable by anybody. And we're getting a lot of email and tweets about it, and we're trying to explain to people, sorry, we didn't do anything. It's not our fault. But we also do a lot of other things, so we're fine in that sense. But if your entire site is dedicated to nothing but shortcuts, I think you're probably having a little stress today because you're sharing things that just aren't shareable anymore.
Yeah, that was sort of what highlighted to me. I was like, oh, there's actually loads of these websites that I wasn't aware of. I know you guys, and I know there's a couple of people that are sort of dedicated to writing shortcuts, but I didn't realize there was whole sites. But yeah, like you say, the people who run those sites are having a really bad day today.
Yeah. And there's, of course, like anything on the internet, if you go on Twitter and you look around and you find the people who are deep in these communities, there's a lot of drama and a lot of agitation right now. But I don't know. Even though we have, it's a significant part of what we do, I'm not particularly concerned about it yet because Apple hasn't said anything positive or negative, and because just the way this came about just strikes me as a bug and not an intentional thing. So, it sucks that it's not available, that those links don't work today, but it's not like you can't make shortcuts. You can still make shortcuts, and the ones on your devices still work. Hopefully it'll get sorted out relatively soon. And, I think anybody, like, for one thing I would not do, like if anybody's listening to this and thinks, oh, I've got a bunch of shortcuts on my links on my website, maybe I should regenerate all those links and replace them on my website. I would not do that because that's potentially, depending on how many you have, a lot of work. And if this just gets fixed in the next, my guess is it'll just be up again at some point today or tomorrow. And if that's the case, you've just done a bunch of work for nothing. So I wouldn't do that. I would wait and see how it goes, even if it's a big part of what you do. We're certainly not going down that path anytime soon.
No, definitely. And as you say, if it's more than one or two, it's going to be a lot of wasted effort when this does get fixed. And maybe even if it doesn't get fixed, until Apple say something, like it's it's not worth doing anything right now, because that's even worst case scenario, if Apple says sorry, yeah, they're all invalidated, just wait until they say it, and then you at least know what's going on.
Right, because if they're all invalid, if this is an intentional thing to get rid of shortcuts, regenerating your shortcuts isn't going to do anything, because what that means is that the mistake wasn't taking the existing shortcuts offline. It was not taking all of the shortcuts offline. You know what I mean? And so if it was really an intentional act to stop sharing, you're probably going to get caught up in it eventually anyway. But I really don't think that that's what it is. I'm going to give Apple the benefit of the doubt on this one and sit it out and see what happens. But, that's been a little bit of a distraction today. We didn't write about it immediately, and I know some people get upset when we don't write about things immediately, because you know how people get on Twitter, they get really up in arms and upset about something, and they're like, oh, the people with the audiences need to be speaking out about this. And we generally don't, about anything really, because, well, when it's this kind of controversy, because what we want to do is we want to think about it and have a measured and reasonable reaction to it, and also give people time to respond and act. Like I contacted Apple and we haven't heard back yet, and so we weren't going to wait forever for them before writing a story, but we wrote a story after we gave them some time to react. And I think a deep breath and a little cool down period is always a good thing before getting up in arms about whatever the next cause is that we're gonna rally the troops and bring down the big company. It's like, let's wait, let's save that for something that really matters. A social issue or something that impacts people's real lives and not the shortcuts on their phone. But yeah, I think it'll all get sorted eventually, and we'll all be happy again. And I'm hoping that by Friday, it's good, because it's funny. I told Federico that Friday I've got a couple of shortcuts ready to go for the Club Mac Stories newsletter. And it could very well be that on Friday, the only 3 shortcuts available on Mac Stories are mine. And not the hundreds that he has done, but hopefully that's not the case, and that his will be available alongside my modest, humble couple of shortcuts I've got for Friday's issue.
Well, there you go. Well, speaking of things that are broken, in my kitchen, and I have for the last, I guess, 5 years, I've had the original Amazon Echo, the big tall plastic tube thing.
The big cylinder, the one that looks like a chimney almost.
Right, and it's got the top of it is a ring that's used for the volume.
I still have one of those here somewhere.
So my ring just stopped working, like not completely. It became unreliable. I would turn the volume up, and sometimes it would go down. And the opposite way around. So like volume control was just completely broken. And I thought, well, I've had this like 5 years or something. I got it on a promotion. Even when it first came out. So I thought, right, it's time to replace it.
Yep.
And I was kind of looking around, and the equivalent replacement right now is the new Echo, which is a big round ball thing that kind of looks like the HomePod Mini. Right. And where I've got it in my kitchen, that really wouldn't have worked for me. I don't want something with a lot of surface area. So I was having a look around, and they were running a promo on the Show 5. If I send them my original Echo, they gave me £20 gift voucher and 25% off an Echo Show 5. So I paid the grand total of £13 for an Echo Show 5. So I was like, wow. Yeah, that'll do. That will be absolutely fine for me.
Yeah, no, that's great. I bought the Echo Show, the original one, which was a little small round one with this tiny screen. And I kind of liked it. I mean, it was nice on my desk for, I would get the weather and some photos, and I could listen to the news, do those kind of things. I ultimately ended up giving it to one of my kids. And I also took one out to Rome one time and gave it to Federico. And funny enough, he's still using it because he got rid of his, I don't know what it is. He's got a sixth sense for things that Apple is going to do. And he got rid of his original HomePods like a week before they were announced that they were being discontinued.
Wow.
And he's moved on to all Echoes, and he's got that one that you mentioned, which it looks a lot like a Mini, but I think it's a decent bit bigger, is my sense, although I'm not exactly sure how large it is. But he's got that for music in his kitchen, I think, and he's got the show somewhere to see the weather and that kind of thing. And yeah, they're really nice, and the new ones look really good, and they've been reviewed quite nicely too. I mean, I'm very unhappy with the fact that the original HomePods got discontinued. I mean, yeah. I think I get it why they were, because I saw people tweeting about how they were buying the ones that were left, and if you look at the serial number and the metadata around the device when you get it plugged in and turned on, a lot of these that were being sold were from the original batches of HomePods made in 2017. So if that's the case, that thing was not selling well at all. Now, I like mine a lot. I don't like the fact that it's been discontinued because it has no ports other than, it's just got no ports whatsoever. I mean, Siri is the interface, right? I mean, you can touch the buttons on the top and use your phone. That's it. So at some point in the future, these things won't be supported, and they won't be good for anything because, they just plug into the wall. There's no USB port. There's no, audio in or out or anything. So I'm not too happy about that. I think Apple's home situation is pretty messed up right now, although I do have some optimism that it's going to get figured out, hopefully sooner rather than later, with the rumors that there's going to be an event in April sometime, because it just feels like there are missing products. The Apple TV is old and too expensive. The HomePod's been discontinued. Now you have the HomePod Mini that's not really a mini of anything, at least not a mini of anything that's still sold, which is super weird. And I don't know. I hope they can kind of right the ship and get this all figured out, because it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence currently. And I expect I'll get at least a couple more years out of my HomePod, so that's fine. But I will miss the fact that I do like that, the Mini does not cannot replace the original one in terms of the quality of sound. Those speakers are really good, those original speakers. But they were, it was an expensive product, and it's just more than a lot of people needed. And at least initially, it didn't do much other than, you were able to ask Siri questions. And, Siri's still not great. So it was, I think it was originally designed as an audio product. They kind of shoehorned in the home stuff. The home stuff didn't fit very well. And so they've just abandoned it, and they're going with the Mini, which has the Thread radios and that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm still a little optimistic, because of things like the Thread radios, the fact that the Mini exists, and the fact that hopefully the Apple TV is going to get replaced. There's room for something to get figured out here, but it's very much in flux right now.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, the HomePod and the Apple TV, like, I feel like they both fall into this same category where, like I love my Apple TV. I use it every day and all of this. And I think it's the same with the HomePod. The original HomePod, I think, for a lot of people, it's like, yeah, it's a great product, but you couldn't possibly recommend it to anybody because it's too expensive, and like, yeah, you'll enjoy it if you've got it, but there's no justification for paying that kind of price, with the Apple TV, whatever it is, £150 or something. Especially when you can get like a, Fire TV stick or a box for, Amazon basically pay you to take them, a Prime Day and stuff like that. They're like, do you want one? Oh, yeah, thanks very much.
I feel like Apple's in this weird position where they're not sure whether they want to do it themselves or have third parties do it. HomeKit exists so that third parties can make HomeKit home automation devices, but yet Apple's making their own stuff too that's related to the home. And it's a little bit like that in the routers that they discontinued several years ago now. It's like, do they want to be in the market or do they not want to be in the market? Is it something that is low margin and they want others to take the lead on, or not? And it's like the Apple TV. Do we want to have a TV app on every television manufactured by every company, kind of the Netflix model where they're on all the devices? Or do we want to have our own thing that people buy and pay us for? And I feel like they've kind of got waffled back and forth on that and haven't really decided where they want to be. I think it's a mistake if they don't have some of their own devices, because I do think that at least if you have mostly Apple stuff, the experience is better with an Apple TV, for instance, because even though I don't use a lot of apps beyond the actual Apple TV app, you do have things. You have the Photos app, and you have games, and you have third-party video apps that sometimes you need in order to watch shows. Like, for instance, Netflix. You can't watch that through the TV app. Now, if you buy a TV, it's probably got a Netflix app on it anyway, so that's not a particularly good example. But there are other things that are facilitated by having a device that also has an app store on it, because even if it doesn't work directly with Apple's thing, which is the TV app, they probably make their own app, and then you're okay in that sense. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a 4K Apple TV. I've never bought that because I don't have a 4K TV yet. That's probably something I'm going to get this year, I think. But yeah, it's a little confused right now at Apple.
Yeah, it's a weird thing as well. And like, if they'd released an Apple TV like, a year ago, like a new version and let's assume for the sake of argument that it was good enough that I would want one, I probably would have bought it and then taken the 4K one that's in the living room and moved it to the spare room. But right. Since I've got my PS5 and I bought the media remote, I don't even use the Apple TV that's in the spare room now, because I'm like, well, yeah, it has AirPlay, I guess, but AirPlay's like literally the only thing it has over, just using the built-in stuff on the PS5, because the PS5 does 4K and all of that kind of stuff. So it's like, I'm not going to spend another 150 quid or whatever just to have 4K on the Apple TV, when the PS5 for the most part is fine for that. It boots up pretty quickly. The remote is pretty good. It's not the best, but it kind of does the job. So like, I'm not sure what they can release on the Apple TV now, in terms of hardware that I'll look at and go, yeah, I'm definitely going to buy that, because I'm really just not sure at this point what they can do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Don't get me started on the PS5, Rob. I'm still trying to get one, and I think I've given up, especially now that there are rumors that we're going to get a new Switch this year. I think I'm giving up on the PS5.
Right.
So that for all the Sony executives listening to this show, I want you to know that I've given up. Because there are so many of them. But yeah, I haven't really given up. The minute I can get one, I'll probably get one. But especially now that the Switch, there's the rumors that they'll have docked 4K playback and all that stuff. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I could see just kind of sitting on the notion of getting a PS5 for quite a while if Nintendo comes out with theirs anytime soon. My guess is it's not going to be before the holiday season, though.
No, I wouldn't have thought. I can't imagine it releasing before, the earliest, probably like October time.
Right, and it's probably going to be pretty scarce itself. Is the other thing. I mean, I don't think that just because Nintendo's going to come out with something that now I won't be, now I'm not going to need to get this PS5 because I'll be able to get this other thing. It'll probably be just as hard to get, if not harder.
Yeah, exactly. You can get the PS5 now, and then you have to wait another 6 months to get the Switch because there won't be any of those either.
Oh no. Oh, all I want to do is spend my money, Rob.
I know. I saw somebody. I don't know if it was Reddit or Twitter, but somebody said they've never worked so hard to spend $500.
Well, yeah, and it's so frustrating because especially the way a lot of the sites do it. Like Walmart had another queue. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, and the way they do it is they say the time that they're going to drop. So you go on the website and you click furiously, and then you get various messages that, you try again. So you do, and then eventually it refreshes and it says, we're going to have more in 10 minutes. And it goes on like this for like an hour. So you have to sit at your computer furiously clicking every 10 minutes. It's like, who has time for that? I don't have time to do that. That's not what I don't consider it fun. I don't consider it productive. It's just not something I want to do. So I've tried once in a while, but for the most part, I either miss these things or when I do participate in them, I leave the process feeling frustrated and vowing never to buy a PS5, which is not particularly good from a goodwill perspective for Sony.
No, it's the capitalism game. It's not great. It's just click buttons and refresh until you can spend your money. It's
like those clicky games that are designed, they call them idle clickers on your phone. Those games, the idle clicker is just like click the buy button and see if it ends up in your shopping cart. It's like, no, that's not fun at all. It's a terrible game.
Oh dear.
I hear you're getting Popeyes in the UK, Rob.
Yeah, we are. Is this good? I don't know. I've heard of this place, but I don't know if this is something I should care about or not.
It's okay. I mean, it's fine. I've had it a couple of times. I mean, it's one of those things where I can tell you that it's pretty good, but I can't say that I've gone there more than a couple of times, and it's only like maybe 4 or 5 miles from my house. So it's not like it's an event to go there. I could go there fairly easily, but I don't go there very often. So, I don't know. It's fine. I would try it, but I don't know if you'll go regularly. Are they going to have one near you, do you think? Or is it...
They haven't really, it doesn't really say. It just says we want to open up 350 stores, but I mean, I'm pretty sure Taco Bell have said the same thing, but in reality they've got like 15 stores. So I don't think it's like and Five Guys is the same. They have more stores now, but they still don't have. They're not. It's not something you can't get a Five Guys in every city in the UK yet.
Right.
It's still the kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, I have like 2 close to me. I've just kind of got lucky, but it's not the kind of thing that's everywhere yet.
I mean, I don't know if it's like this there, but fried chicken is such a fad right now that I don't know that I would. I mean, that's part of the reason I don't go to Popeyes. I mean, you can get a good fried chicken sandwich if you want that at McDonald's now, or we have a bunch of just local small restaurants that serve that kind of thing. So it's not really. Popeyes is not really either. It's neither the closest nor necessarily the best. So I just don't ever really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, independent shops that, takeaways that sell fried chicken here are huge as well. I mean,
right.
There are some places, I mean, even here, if I walk a mile along the road from my house, I can think of like 4 off the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
Not, I don't generally eat at them because some of them look a bit dodgy.
And eating fried chicken every day is really not recommended for a healthy appetite. I mean, it's not a good thing you should do.
No. And built up city, London, Manchester, place like that, like there is fried chicken places everywhere. So I don't know how well this is actually going to do, but if I have the opportunity, I will try it anyway. For the show, for research.
Definitely. Well, at least in the United States, they did release a chicken sandwich that was supposedly one of the best around. And it was in such short supply. It was one of those things that just was around for a little while and then it disappeared. And they had a hard time stocking them, it's weird. It's not like PS5s, right? I mean, it's chicken. But but they did have a hard time. And I don't think I've ever had that sandwich. So I can't say that how good that is compared to the million other places that serve chicken sandwiches around here. But yeah, it'd be worth trying once or twice.
Yeah, well, I will keep an eye out. Once I can actually go back out into the world. The first thing I'm doing when I'm allowed back out is getting Nando's.
Oh, that's a good idea. We have one actually. I think I probably mentioned this a long time ago. Pretty close to us at a shopping mall, and yeah, I haven't had Nando's in a really long time. I could go for some Nando's.
Yeah, if I'd known it was February last year was the last time I'd went. If I'd known then that it was going to be my last time for a while, I would have probably had a bit more.
Yeah, you have a double order.
Right.
One in the restaurant and one to go to bring home. Oh, well. Well, hopefully Nando's isn't our near future.
Oh, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Rob.
All right, speak to you later.